Joran wiped the sweat from his forehead as he tightened a loose gear on the mining skimmer. Calith was quiet that evening, the red dust settling over the jagged cliffs like a thin blanket. He liked the silence. It gave him space to think and work without the constant chatter of other miners. But tonight something felt wrong. A low vibration hummed through the ground, something heavier than the normal quakes caused by mining operations. He stepped outside, squinting at the horizon. The sun had nearly set, casting long shadows over the metal structures scattered across the valley. Then he saw it, a huge shadow moving fast toward the cliffs. His heart jumped. It wasn't any machine he had seen, and it certainly wasn't human. Something was crashing through the air, flailing as it fell. Dust erupted in clouds and a deep, pained groan echoed across the canyon. Joran ran toward the sound, dodging rocks and broken machinery. As he reached the edge of the valley, his eyes widened in disbelief. There, lying on the rocky ground, was a dragon. Not the kind from old stories, colored like fire or night skies, but an albino dragon. Its scales shimmered like glass, reflecting the dying light. Its wings were torn, one bent at a cruel angle, and it breathed in short, rattling gasps. Joran froze. Dragons weren't supposed to exist, at least not anywhere humans could reach. The dragon's head lifted slightly, and its pale blue eyes met his. Then to his shock it spoke. The voice was soft but strained, almost a whisper carried by the wind. "Please, help me. My mate, they took him." The words sent a shiver down Joran's spine. She was begging, desperate, and despite the danger, he felt an undeniable pull to help her. He approached cautiously, keeping his hands visible. I can try," he said. He had no idea what that meant exactly. He had patched engines, repaired mining bots, and fixed life support systems, but he had never treated a dragon before. And yet, he could see the pain in her eyes, the trembling in her massive body, and he knew he couldn't turn away. Joran hurried back to his workshop and grabbed every tool, blanket, and piece of metal he thought might help. Dragging the dragon inside took effort, and she winced each time a scale scraped the floor. "Careful, careful," she whispered. He noticed strange devices embedded along her wings, tiny wires and metallic clamps that didn't belong to her. Whoever had done this wanted to control her, or worse. Once inside, Joran worked feverishly. He removed the devices one by one, trying not to cause more pain. The dragon's breathing slowed a little as he applied bandages to the worst tears in her wings. He spoke softly, even though he doubted she understood all his words. "You're safe here. I'll help you." The dragon's eyes softened, a flicker of trust appearing. "Joran, thank you. I am Leora. My mate. Zarek, he is captured. I was too late." Her voice carried grief, but also a flicker of hope. Joran had never met anyone like Leora. She wasn't just huge and terrifying, she had a mind, a voice, and feelings as deep as any human. Joran sat back for a moment, wiping his hands on his apron. His chest was tight. He had always thought his life was small, limited to repairing machines and keeping miners alive. But now, with this dragon in his workshop, injured and in need of help, he felt a stirring in his soul he hadn't expected. It was as if helping her had awakened something inside him, a courage he didn't know he had, a purpose bigger than himself. Night fell over Calith, the valley dark and quiet except for the occasional clatter of tools as Joran worked. Leora lay on the floor, her massive head resting on a blanket he had placed beneath her. Her breathing was steadier now, though she winced when she moved. Joran kept glancing at her, feeling a strange connection. He didn't know what the future held or what dangers her plea would bring, but he knew one thing. He couldn't abandon her. He checked her injuries again and noticed a faint glow along the lines where the devices had been attached. It pulsed weakly, like a heartbeat, as if her body was rejecting the foreign control. Joran's curiosity mixed with concern. He had worked on complicated machines before, but this was different. It wasn't just mechanics, it was life, power, something beyond human understanding. Leora spoke again, softer this time, almost a whisper. "They will come for me, Joran. The ones who hurt us. They will not forgive failure." Her words were a warning, but Joran only felt resolve. "Then we'll be ready," he said. His voice was steady, though inside his heart raced. He had no idea how, but he would protect her. He would find Zarek and bring him back. The night stretched on, and the stars above seemed brighter than ever. Leora's breathing grew calm, and Joran felt the first sense of peace since the dragon fell from the sky. He looked around his small workshop, filled with tools, scraps of metal, and strange parts, and realized it was no longer just a place for fixing machines. It had become a sanctuary, the start of something much larger. Joran didn't sleep that night. He kept watching Leora, listening to her quiet breaths, thinking of the journey ahead. He knew the universe was vast, dangerous, and full of things humans could not even imagine. But for the first time he felt that humans were capable of more. They could be protectors, saviors, and heroes. And he, a simple mechanic from Calith, was about to discover how much courage one human could hold. Dawn approached, painting the valley in soft light. Leora lifted her head slightly, her eyes meeting his again. There was trust there now, fragile but real. And in that moment, Joran understood that this encounter had changed him forever. The albino dragon who fell before him had not just entered his workshop, she had entered his soul. He smiled faintly. "We'll get him back," he promised, his voice firm. "I don't know how yet, but we will." And with that, a silent bond formed between the mechanic and the dragon, one that neither time nor danger could break. Joran woke to the sound of soft shifting in his workshop. Leora was awake, her pale scales glowing faintly in the dim light. She looked weaker than yesterday, but there was determination in her eyes. "You slept little," she said. Her voice was calm now, though there was a hint of worry. "I couldn't," Joran admitted. "There's so much to think about." He paused, looking at the dragon's torn wings. "How did this happen? Who did this to you?" Leora lowered her head, her eyes shadowed with grief. "Zareth," she whispered. "An alien warlord. He captures dragons for their energy. My mate, Zarek, was taken. I tried to stop him, but I was too late." She exhaled a shuddering breath. "He has cages, machines that drain life and strength. He enslaves my kind. I escaped, but barely." Joran frowned. He had heard rumors of space warlords, of creatures enslaved for power, but he had never believed them real. And now here was a dragon, injured and speaking the truth. His hands shook slightly as he processed it. We have to save him," he said finally. His voice was firmer than he felt. Leora's eyes softened. "Yes, but it is dangerous. Zareth commands soldiers, machines, traps. Many have tried to challenge him, and failed." Joran nodded, thinking quickly. He looked around his workshop at the piles of spare parts, engines, and mining tools. He had always been a mechanic, but these tools could be weapons if used cleverly. "Then we'll do it differently," he said. "We'll be clever. We'll plan." Over the next hours, Joran worked alongside Leora. They created armor for her damaged wings using scrap metal, welding it carefully to avoid hurting her further. He built small devices that could jam sensors and confuse alien machines. Leora watched him with interest, learning quickly. "Humans, you have ingenuity," she said. "I did not expect this." Joran smiled faintly. "Most people on Calith don't leave their machines. But you're different. I want to help." By night, they had crafted simple weapons and tools that could give them a chance. Leora practiced moving with her new armor, testing her wings carefully. Joran studied the maps she drew, showing the route to Zaretha's fortress. It was deep in a rocky asteroid field, heavily guarded. Every step would be dangerous. As they worked, Leora shared stories of dragons and their connection to energy. Humans, she explained, could harness machines, but dragons could channel life energy, a force that powered planets and ships. When combined, a human's creativity and a dragon's energy could do things no one imagined. Joran felt a chill. He had never thought of humans as powerful in that way. Late in the night, they paused and looked at the stars. Leora's voice was soft. "Zarek, he trusts me to find him. I must not fail." Her eyes glimmered with pain and resolve. Joran felt a heavy weight in his chest. "You won't," he said. "I'll make sure of it." He realized that helping Leora was changing him. He had always been ordinary, a mechanic who fixed machines. But now he felt a purpose he had never known. It was frightening but also exciting. He would not only save Zarek, he would prove that humans could rise to challenges no one expected them to face. They tested their plans on small scale. Joran used drones to simulate alien patrols while Leora practiced maneuvers. Every time something went wrong, they adjusted. Each small success built confidence. Leora's eyes sparkled when Joran solved a problem she thought impossible. "You are clever," she said. "Perhaps humans are stronger than I believed." By the third night, their preparations were nearly complete. Leora's wounds were healing, the armor protecting her wings. Joran had modified a small skimmer that could travel fast through the asteroid fields. Together, they could reach Zaretha's fortress and have a chance to rescue Zarek. As they rested, Leora leaned her head on the floor, looking tired but calm. "Tomorrow we leave," she said quietly. "You must be ready, human. Zaretha's forces are merciless. They will try to stop us." Joran nodded, feeling the weight of the coming journey. Fear was there, but it was mixed with determination. He thought of his life before, of fixing engines and skimmers in solitude. That life seemed so small now. This mission with Leora was bigger than anything he had imagined. Hours passed in silence, the stars shining bright above Calith. Joran thought of what he had learned. Humans were underestimated, yes, but they had ingenuity, courage, and a heart that could rise to extraordinary challenges. Leora's trust in him was not given lightly, and he could not betray it. Finally he spoke softly, almost to himself. "We'll save him, Leora. We'll bring your mate back." She lifted her head slightly, meeting his gaze. There was a spark of hope in her eyes, fragile but real. "I believe you," she said. The night seemed to stretch forever, but Joran did not sleep. He kept checking the weapons, the devices, the skimmer. Everything had to be perfect. Every detail mattered. He had never faced danger like this before, yet he felt ready. He realized that courage was not the absence of fear, but the choice to act despite it. As dawn approached, the workshop was quiet, filled only with the soft hum of machinery and Leora's breathing. Joran looked at the dragon and thought of the enemy ahead. Zareth had enslaved dragons, taken their mates, and ruled through fear. But he had never faced a human who refused to be ordinary. Joran's heart tightened with resolve. He would fight for Leora, for Zarek, and for every dragon who had suffered. The universe had underestimated humans for too long. Now it was time to show what one human, armed with courage and ingenuity, could do. And somewhere deep inside, Joran felt a change. The ordinary mechanic from Calith was gone. In his place stood a man ready to challenge impossible odds, to face an enemy stronger than any he had imagined. He would not fail. Not now. Not ever. Joran checked the modified skimmer one last time, running his hands over the controls. It was small, fast, and built for stealth. Leora stood beside him, her injured wings now protected by the armor they had welded together. She flexed carefully, testing her strength, her pale eyes bright with determination. "Are you ready, human?" she asked, her voice calm but firm. "I'm ready," Joran said, though his stomach twisted with nerves. He had faced challenges before, but never anything like this. Zareth's fortress lay deep in the asteroid field, surrounded by sensors, patrols, and alien soldiers. One wrong move and they could be captured, or worse. They lifted off quietly, gliding through the thin atmosphere of Calith before launching into the void. Stars stretched around them, distant and cold, but Joran felt a warmth of purpose. Each second carried them closer to danger, and he focused on what they had prepared. Every device, every plan had to work perfectly. The asteroid field loomed ahead, jagged rocks drifting slowly in space. Zareth's fortress was hidden within it, massive and dark, a fortress of metal and shadows. Leora guided the skimmer, using her instincts to navigate gaps that sensors could not detect. Joran monitored the skimmer's shields and the small jamming devices they had attached. If the sensors picked them up, it would be over before it began. Hours passed in tense silence. They dodged patrol drones and twisted between floating asteroids. Joran's hands were sore from gripping the controls, but he did not let fear control him. Each maneuver, each choice reminded him of how far he had come. He was no longer just a mechanic. He was a strategist, a fighter, a human capable of extraordinary things. Finally, they reached the edge of Zareth's fortress. It was enormous, a dark sprawl of metal and energy towers, with cages visible through the open airlocks. Dragons, enslaved, lay weakly inside, their wings shackled to glowing machines that drained their strength. Joran's chest tightened. He had never seen such cruelty. Leora's eyes burned with anger. "They're alive, but barely," she said. "We have to move quickly." Joran activated the jamming devices. Sensors blinked erratically as they approached the outer walls. Guards, humanoid and robotic, scanned the area, but the devices created blind spots. Leora crouched low, moving silently beside the skimmer as they approached a side entrance. She whispered instructions, and Joran followed carefully, adjusting the skimmer's position to avoid detection. When they reached the inner chambers, Joran's heart raced. Rows of dragons lay chained to strange machines, breathing shallowly, their eyes full of pain. And there, in the center, was Zarek. His scales were dark, dulled by the energy-draining devices, but his eyes lit up when he saw Leora. She hissed softly, a sound filled with both love and sorrow. Joran swallowed hard. He had never fought aliens before, yet he could feel the urgency pulsing through him. He began to work, using small tools and devices to disable the machines one by one. Sparks flew, alarms buzzed faintly, but the jamming devices kept the main security systems blind. Leora helped, carefully pulling Zarek free from the restraints. One of the robotic guards noticed movement and advanced. Joran held his breath as Leora roared, unleashing a blast of energy from her body that knocked the guard off its feet. "Go!" she shouted. Joran moved quickly, using a magnetic net to trap the robot and free another dragon from its cage. Chaos erupted in the chamber. Dragons stirred, their eyes filled with recognition and hope. Some were still weak, but Leora's presence inspired them to move. Joran felt a thrill of fear and excitement as he realized they could actually succeed. They reached Zarek and the largest dragons first. Joran's hands worked furiously, cutting the last restraints and dismantling the machines. Zarek shook, weak but alive, and looked at Leora. "You came for me," he whispered, his voice hoarse. "Of course," Leora said, her eyes glistening. "I never give up." Joran stepped back, watching as dragons rallied around them. Some still staggered, their wings dragging, but they followed Leora's lead. Joran realized that humans and dragons together could accomplish what seemed impossible. His mind raced with possibilities. This was not just a rescue. It was a lesson. Humans had courage, intelligence, and the will to rise when it mattered most. Suddenly an alarm blared. Zareth's forces were aware of the breach. Joran and Leora exchanged a glance. "Time to leave," he said, his voice steady. They guided the dragons to the skimmer, the larger ones carefully crouching to fit. Leora's energy shield flickered as she carried the weaker dragons, her strength pushing her beyond exhaustion. Joran piloted the skimmer out of the fortress, weaving between the guards and patrol drones. He activated a series of small explosions behind them, creating distractions while the jamming devices continued to blind sensors. Dragons roared as they followed, their wings gaining strength with each moment of freedom. As they cleared the outer perimeter, Leora glanced at him, her eyes full of gratitude. "You did more than help me today," she said softly. "You gave hope to all of us." Joran felt a warmth spread through him. He had never imagined that a human could make such a difference, but the evidence was clear. Dragons were free, Zarek was safe, and the fortress was in disarray. Humans could rise, not just with machines but with heart, courage, and ingenuity. As they flew into the safety of open space, Joran looked at the stars. The universe was vast, filled with dangers he could not yet imagine. But he also saw possibility. Humans had a role to play and he had found his place. He was no longer just a mechanic. He was a savior, a protector, and a part of something far larger than himself. Leora's wings stretched wide, catching the starlight, and even the weaker dragons began to rise. Joran felt a thrill of hope he had never known. Together they had entered the heart of the enemy's lair and come out victorious. The journey ahead would be difficult, but they had proven one truth: human courage combined with the power of dragons could change the universe. And in that moment, Joran understood something deep within. He was no longer ordinary. The adventure had only begun, but he had already discovered the strength of a human heart, and the difference it could make in a galaxy that had never truly believed in them. The freed dragons soared above the asteroid field, their wings stretching toward the stars. Leora led the group, her pale scales shining in the starlight, while Joran piloted the skimmer below, keeping a careful watch for Zareth's remaining forces. Despite the victory, he felt unease settle in his chest. Zareth had not been defeated completely. The warlord's power was vast, and his revenge would be swift. Leora landed on a floating platform in a quiet pocket of the field, and the dragons gathered around her. Joran shut down the skimmer and stepped out, feeling the cold of space against his suit. He looked at the dragons, their energy still weak from captivity, and realized the challenge ahead. They needed more than stealth and clever machines. They needed strength, and humans had something dragons did not yet fully understand. "You did well, human," Leora said softly, her eyes meeting his. "But Zareth will strike back. His machines are stronger, faster, deadlier. We cannot face him with speed alone. We must awaken what lies within us." Joran frowned. "What do you mean?" Leora walked slowly around the dragons. "You humans have ingenuity, creativity, and courage. You do not yet know how powerful you can be when you combine these with dragon energy. You can amplify what the machines alone cannot. You can fight in ways the universe does not expect." Joran listened carefully, feeling both fear and excitement. He had always thought of humans as ordinary, limited by their bodies and tools. But seeing the dragons, seeing their energy, and realizing that he could help channel it, it felt like stepping into a new world. "Show me," he said. "Teach me." Leora nodded. She extended her claws and touched the metallic surface of the skimmer. A soft glow appeared, spreading along the metal like a river of light. "Feel it," she said. This energy is alive. It flows through machines, through the air, through those who believe in it. Let it guide your hands. Joran reached out cautiously. The moment his fingers touched the glowing metal, he felt warmth and power rushing through him. His heart pounded and a strange clarity filled his mind. He could see patterns in the machine's possibilities, weaknesses he had never noticed before. The energy was responding to his intent, his will. Leora watched closely. Do not fear it. Trust yourself. Humans can awaken power in ways dragons cannot. You must believe in your own strength. Joran closed his eyes, focusing. He imagined the devices he had built, the jamming fields, the skimmer engines. Slowly, the energy flowed through him, enhancing his creations, strengthening them in ways he could not have imagined. The small skimmer beneath him hummed with new power, and he could feel that if needed, it could move faster, stronger, and more agile than any machine in Zaratha's army. This is incredible, Joran whispered. He opened his eyes to see Leora smiling faintly. You are ready, she said. Ready to face him and protect those who cannot protect themselves. Suddenly, alarms blared faintly from distant sensors. Joran's stomach tightened. Zaratha's patrols had discovered their presence. He's coming, Leora said, spreading her wings. We must test your power now. Joran nodded. He activated his devices. Energy flowed through the skimmer, through the metal plates, through the circuits he had built. The engines roared louder than usual, but this was not noise, it was strength, amplified and alive. Joran felt it guiding his hands, making calculations faster than he could think, moving with precision he did not know he possessed. Zaratha's forces appeared as shadows on the horizon, sleek ships and drones approaching fast. Leora took to the air, leading the dragons in formation. Joran followed, using the skimmer to protect the weaker dragons. As attacks came, Joran directed energy bursts from the skimmer, not just as weapons but as shields, deflecting fire and redirecting it back toward the enemy. Each move flowed naturally, instinctively, as if the energy itself were guiding him. The alien ships faltered. Their weapons misfired, their formations broke. Joran's heart raced, but his mind remained clear. He realized that human courage, combined with creativity and dragon energy, was unstoppable in ways Zarath had never expected. Leora roared, her voice echoing through space, and the dragons followed suit. Energy pulses radiated outward, amplified by Joran's machines. It was a symphony of power, human and dragon, mind and energy, courage and heart. Zaratha's forces were overwhelmed. Ships spun out of control and drones fell to the ground in sparks and smoke. As the battle subsided, Joran floated in the skimmer, breathing hard, amazed at what had happened. He had felt fear, but he had also felt power beyond himself. He realized that humans were capable of more than he had ever imagined. Bravery and ingenuity could awaken strength in ways the universe underestimated. Leora landed beside him, wings folding neatly against her back. You see now, she said, her eyes glowing faintly with pride. Humans are not weak. You can rise above fear, above limits. You can change what the universe believes about you. Joran nodded, still catching his breath. He felt changed, stronger, more certain. This was no longer about rescuing one dragon. It was about proving that humans could face the impossible and win, that courage and creativity were as powerful as any weapon. Zarek, now fully recovered, approached with the other dragons. You have done more than save me, he said, looking at Joran. You have awakened something in your kind. The universe will remember this. Joran smiled faintly. He realized that the journey ahead would be even harder, but he was ready. Humans had a role in this galaxy, one that mattered. He was no longer just a mechanic from Calith. He was a protector, a warrior, a force awakened. The freed dragons circled above, wings cutting through starlight, and Joran felt a deep sense of purpose. Together they would face Zarath again if needed. Humans and dragons, united by courage and energy, were stronger than anyone had imagined. As they prepared to move forward, Joran touched the skimmer lightly. The energy pulsed in response, a silent promise of strength and protection. Leora watched him with respect. You have awakened your power, she said softly. Now it is time to bring justice to those who harmed us. Joran's hands tightened on the controls. Fear was still there, but it was matched by determination. He was ready. The universe had underestimated humans, but no longer. Together with the dragons, he would show that courage, heart, and ingenuity could change the balance of power in the galaxy. And for the first time, Joran truly understood what it meant to rise beyond ordinary limits. He was ready to face Zarath, ready to protect those who could not protect themselves, and ready to prove that even one human could make a difference in a universe full of impossible odds. Joran guided the skimmer through the calm void of space, the freed dragons flying above, their wings catching starlight. The fortress of Zareth lay behind them, still smoking from the battle, its forces scattered and broken. For the first time, Joran felt a quiet in the galaxy, a moment of peace he had not known since Leora had fallen before him. But even in this calm, he knew the work was not over. Dragons would need protection, and humans would need to prove their strength to the universe. Leora flew down beside the skimmer, her massive wings folding gracefully. She touched Joran lightly on the shoulder with her claw. "You have done more than rescue me and Zarek," she said softly. "You have shown what humans can do. You have changed the balance of power." Joran looked at her, his hands still tight on the controls. "I didn't do it alone. You and the dragons helped me too. I just did what I had to do." Leora's eyes glimmered. "That is the way of courage. You acted when others would have waited. That is what makes humans extraordinary. You may be small in size, but your heart is immense." Zarek, now fully recovered, landed beside them. His dark scales shone faintly in the starlight. He studied Joran carefully. "I have seen many creatures attempt rescue," he said, his voice deep and calm. "But never a human with such will. You are not like your kind. You are remarkable." Joran felt a warmth rise in his chest. He had never thought of himself as remarkable. A mechanic, a worker, someone ordinary. And yet here he was, praised by dragons, recognized for bravery and intelligence. The thought made him both proud and humble. The dragons gathered, forming a protective circle around the skimmer. Even the weaker ones now lifted slightly from the ground, their wings strong enough to hover. Joran marveled at them. He had seen creatures enslaved and broken, and now they were free, alive, and full of spirit. He realized that freedom was not just for dragons, it was for everyone who had been underestimated. Leora spread her wings wide and glanced at Joran. "You saved more than lives today. You saved hope. The universe will remember this day because of you." Joran shook his head, smiling faintly. "I just did what I thought was right." Zarek stepped closer. "That is what makes humans dangerous and wonderful. You do not act out of pride or fear alone. You act with heart." His eyes softened as he looked at Joran. "Perhaps one day humans and dragons can build something together. A bond of trust and strength." Joran's mind wandered to Calith, to his small workshop, and to the quiet life he had once known. Everything had changed. He was no longer just a mechanic repairing machines. He was someone who had touched the fate of the galaxy. He had acted when others might have hesitated. And he had learned that even one human could make a difference. The dragons began to rise into the sky, wings cutting through the cold light of distant stars. Joran followed with the skimmer, feeling the thrill of freedom and unity. The bond he had formed with Leora and the others was unlike anything he had known. It was trust, understanding, and mutual respect, built in the fires of danger and strengthened by courage. As they traveled away from Zaretha's fortress, Joran realized the galaxy would never be the same. Humans, dragons, and other species could work together in ways that no one had predicted. The universe had underestimated humans for too long, and he had seen firsthand the difference one human could make when guided by heart and ingenuity. Leora landed on a rocky platform floating in space. She lowered her head toward Joran. "You have earned a place among us," she said softly. "Not as a servant, not as a helper, but as a friend, a partner. The bond you have formed with us is rare and precious." Joran felt a deep sense of humility. He reached out and touched the dragon's snout gently. "Thank you," he said. I've learned more from you than I ever could have imagined. You've changed me." Zarek stepped forward, his eyes warm. "And you have changed the course of our lives. We will not forget what you have done." The stars stretched endlessly above them, vast and beautiful. Joran realized that the future held unknown dangers, but it also held hope. Humans could rise to challenges, form alliances, and protect those who could not protect themselves. Courage, ingenuity, and heart were enough to change the course of history. Leora lifted her wings again, and Joran felt the energy flowing around him. It was not just dragon energy, it was life, hope, and trust intertwined. He knew that as long as humans acted with heart, they could face any threat, overcome any enemy, and build bonds that would last across the galaxy. Joran looked around at the dragons, at Leora, at Zarek, and then at the vast field of stars. He smiled, feeling a new purpose, a new life stretching before him. He was no longer an ordinary mechanic. He was a human who had faced the impossible and survived. He was a protector, a friend and a part of something much larger than himself. The dragons circled higher, their wings catching the starlight. Leora glanced at Joran once more, her eyes soft but resolute. "We will soar together," she said. "You will always have a place with us." Joran nodded, his heart full. "And I will always protect you. All of you." As they lifted into the endless sky, the universe seemed brighter, fuller, and more alive. Humans had proved themselves, dragons had found freedom, and bonds stronger than fear and hate had been formed. Joran realized that courage, heart, and ingenuity could change the galaxy. The skimmer hummed beneath him, the stars stretched above, and the dragon soared beside him. Joran felt a deep peace. He had faced danger, discovered strength he never knew he had, and forged bonds that would last a lifetime. The galaxy was vast, but he no longer felt small. He had risen not just as a human but as a hero, a friend, and a part of the universe's living story. And in that quiet, shining moment, Joran understood something he had never known before. One human with courage and heart could change the fate of worlds, and form a bond that would last beyond time itself.